All right, so imagine this. You come home
Hmm.
after a crazy day,
Yeah.
right? And you suddenly realize, oh, shoot, out of milk,
The worst.
right? But instead of battling traffic and crowds at the grocery store, you just, you take the elevator
Yeah.
down to a fully stocked store.
In your building?
Yeah, in your apartment building. I mean, that's the reality for a growing number of people, and it's all thanks to this company, Urban Value.
It's pretty wild.
So today we're going to kind of dive into this article. It's called Five Reasons Why Urban Value Stores Are Thriving in Urban Multi-Unit Apartment Communities.
Catchy.
Yeah, well, full transparency. It's from the company themselves,
Okay.
but it actually offers some, I think, pretty fascinating insights into this whole trend.
Yeah, for sure.
So get ready, because we're going to unpack, like, why this model is working and what it tells us about how people want to live in cities these days. What does this say about us?
What does it say about modern life? Yeah, and I think what's really interesting here is that this isn't just about grabbing a soda and a bag of chips. It's not your typical convenience store.
Right.
Urban Value is tapping into something much bigger, this desire for what some people call frictionless living.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that frictionless living thing.
Yeah.
I can totally see that, especially, in busy urban environments.
Right, exactly. Where
Yeah.
people are just craving convenience and just easy access
Accessibility, yeah.
to whatever they need.
Yeah. And the article's first point, it really drives it home. Convenience is king.
Makes sense?
They talk about the, quote, unmatched convenience and accessibility, end quote, of having a store right there in your building.
I mean, think about it. No more late night runs to the store in your pajamas.
Oh, yeah. I can see the appeal,
Right.
especially if it's like snowing out or something.
Oh, for sure.
Or raining.
100%.
But I have to admit, my initial thought was, isn't this just like a glorified vending machine?
Yeah.
How much variety can they really offer?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but that's where Urban Value gets kind of clever. They tailor their inventory to each specific community.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, you'll find those everyday essentials like your milk and bread and whatever, but they also partner with local vendors, and they really emphasize what they call healthy alternatives.
Okay.
So think, locally roasted coffee, fresh produce, maybe even meals prepped by restaurants nearby.
So it's not just like they're slapping up the same shelves everywhere. It's actually like curated
Exactly, yeah,
to the people who live there.
100%.
Okay, that makes a lot more
It
sense.
plays into this whole trend of personalization we see everywhere now.
Oh, yeah.
People want things curated to their taste, even in something as basic as, grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Urban Value gets that, and that's a big part of their appeal.
Okay, so we've talked about the resident experience.
Right.
What about the business side? The article frames these stores as a big perk for apartment complexes,
Oh, yeah.
which makes sense, right? If
Yeah.
you're trying to attract and keep tenants.
Of course, yeah, it's an amenity.
Totally.
But it gets really fascinating here because it's not just about convenience, right?
Right.
Urban Value is kind of creating a community hub within these buildings.
Oh, okay.
Imagine bumping into your neighbor while you're grabbing coffee, or chatting with the cashier who knows your name.
Yeah.
These little interactions, they make a difference, especially in these big apartment complexes where people can sometimes feel kind of isolated.
That's such a good point, yeah. It's easy to get lost in the anonymity of a big city,
Yeah.
even within your own building.
Exactly.
And the article talks about enhancing community appeal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to see how Urban Value is doing exactly that.
Exactly. And that sense of community, it translates to happier residents. Happier residents are more likely to renew their leases.
Right, right.
So it's a win-win for both the residents and the property owners.
Okay, so everybody wins. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, the article's next point, it's a bit more behind the scenes,
Okay.
but I think it's key to understanding Urban Value's success.
Okay.
They emphasize their stable leadership with their CEO, Steve McKinley,
Mm-hmm.
and Regional Operations Manager, Regan Manley.
Interesting.
So what's interesting here is that in any business, consistent leadership is crucial for long-term success.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It means they have a clear vision, everyone's working toward the same goal.
Right. Think of it like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Everyone knows their role, things run smoothly, and that consistency, it translates into a better experience for the residents.
So it's not just about having a cool idea.
Right.
It's about having the right people to execute it over time.
Yeah, you got to have both.
Okay, on to the last point from the article, which I'll admit I needed some help understanding.
All right, let's hear it.
Operational efficiency.
Oh,
They mentioned this focused SCOs strategy, and I was like, what?
don't worry, SKU. That just stands for Stock Keeping Unit. Basically, a fancy way of saying each individual product they sell.
Oh, okay. All right.
So really, what Urban Value does well is they're super strategic about which products they carry. It's not about having this massive, overwhelming selection.
Right.
It's about having the right selection.
So less is more in this case.
In this case, yeah, exactly. A smaller, more curated inventory means less waste, better inventory management,
Makes sense.
and ultimately a much smoother shopping experience.
I could see that, yeah. Have you ever been in a convenience store where it's just like chaos?
Oh,
Like you
yeah.
can't find anything. It's super frustrating.
The worst.
And it seems like Urban Value is going for the opposite, a
Yeah.
streamlined, enjoyable experience.
Absolutely. And again, it ties back into that personalization
Oh, okay.
and understanding their target audience. Urban Value is betting that residents are going to prioritize efficiency and a well-chosen selection over being bombarded with a million different options.
Okay, so far we've seen how Urban Value is tapping into some major trends in city living. This need for convenience,
Yeah.
the desire for community,
Yeah.
and this preference for streamlined, personalized experiences. But can this model actually work outside of apartment buildings?
Ooh, good question.
That's what we'll be exploring in part 2 of this deep dive.
So we've established Urban Values, kind of killing it in the apartment complex scene.
Yeah, they're doing something right for sure.
But the million-dollar question is, can they take this show on the road?
Right, exactly.
Could we see these stores popping up in office buildings,
Oh, interesting.
college dorms,
Ooh, yeah.
maybe even retirement communities? Who knows?
I mean, it's a super intriguing idea if you think about it. Like those core principles we've been talking about, right?
Mhm.
The convenience, the community, the efficiency.
Right.
Those aren't limited to just apartment dwellers.
100%. I mean, think about it. People across the board are craving this stuff.
Yeah.
And, if you look at the bigger picture, those trends we discussed, like frictionless living,
Right.
the demand for curated experiences, that's happening everywhere.
Yeah, it's like a whole societal shift in what people expect.
Yeah, totally.
But here's where I get a little skeptical.
Okay.
Urban Value's success so far seems like pretty tied to being inside the apartment complex.
Yeah.
They're not just a store, right? They're an amenity. They're
Mhm.
part of the whole living experience.
That's a really important point, replicating that level of integration. In other settings, it's going to be tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, picture an office building. Chances are they've already got, a cafeteria
Right.
or little coffee shop in the lobby.
Yeah.
Would an Urban Value store just be redundant?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Or could it actually complement what's already there?
And what about that community aspect?
Yeah.
Part of Urban Value's magic is that it brings together people who already live in close proximity.
Right.
Would that same dynamic work in an office environment where people are coming and going at all hours?
It's a wholly different vibe.
Right. It's not the same.
Not the same. Those are all questions that Urban Value would need to really, really nail down.
Yeah.
If they wanted to expand beyond apartment complexes, they'd have to tweak their model, their inventory.
Even their marketing
Right.
to fit the specific needs
Right.
and the vibe even
Yeah.
of each new environment.
So it's not just a matter of copy pasting what they're doing now.
Mhm.
They'd need to be super strategic
Right.
and adapt to each new situation.
It's it's almost like a whole new business
Right.
almost.
Honestly. That makes me even more curious to see what they do next. Yeah, I'm fascinated to see where they go. It's a fascinating case study, I think, in entrepreneurship.
Oh, for sure.
They saw a need, came up with a solution, executed it flawlessly. Now the challenge is, can they evolve and capture these new markets without losing sight of what made them successful in the first place?
Right. Yeah, they've got to keep their core.
Their core, yeah.
Their core values.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get real for a second here.
Okay.
We've been, throwing around all these ideas, but what do you think?
Yeah, listener, we want to know.
Yeah, listener.
What are your thoughts?
Could you see Urban Value working outside of apartment buildings?
Yeah.
What other types of communities or places would benefit from this model? Hit us up on social media. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And, speaking of community, let's shift gears for a moment.
Okay.
And talk about the broader implications of
Wow.
what Urban Value is doing. It's not just about selling groceries,
Yeah.
right? It's about tapping into something much deeper, like this fundamental human need for connection.
That's a great point. What's funny is we've been like dissecting urban value strategy.
Yeah,
I keep thinking about the bigger picture.
right.
It's not just about corner stores.
It's nice.
It's about how we create a sense of community in cities,
Hmm.
especially as they get more and more crowded.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's true. And urban value is really tapping into a very human need,
Yeah.
that need for connection,
Yeah.
in a world that's getting increasingly digital
Right.
and sometimes isolating.
Right.
They're offering a physical space for people to interact, to
Well,
actually see each other face to face.
It's like the opposite of just grabbing your stuff and running out,
Totally.
which is what usually happens at your typical, convenience store.
Yeah, just like get in, get out.
Yeah, exactly. There's not much sense of community there.
Nope.
Urban value is like flipping the script. By becoming part of the fabric of these apartment complexes,
Mm,
they're not just a place to buy things.
Right.
They're a gathering spot, a
totally.
place where those little moments of connection can happen.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that question of whether they can expand. If
Right.
they want to branch out beyond apartment buildings,
Yeah,
they've got to figure out how to recreate that sense of community
Right.
in other settings.
yeah. It's not just about selling products. It's about creating an experience.
It really is. It's the whole package.
Right.
That's the real challenge, right?
Yeah.
Can they bottle that magic
Yeah.
and replicate it in office buildings or student dorms or senior living centers? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they approach this.
Yeah. One thing that might give them an advantage is that focus on personalization we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Remember how they tailor their inventory to each community?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if they applied that same level of customization
Right.
to different demographics and lifestyles.
Now you're thinking like a CEO.
I'm trying here.
Imagine an urban value in a student housing complex
Okay.
that's geared toward late night study sessions
Yeah.
with, healthy snacks and quick meals.
Yeah.
Or one in a retirement community that offers like delivery services and easy to prepare foods. I mean, the possibilities are pretty exciting.
Right. Yeah, it all comes down to understanding the needs and wants of
Mhm.
each specific group of people
Right.
and then creating an experience that clicks with them.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the heart of any successful business.
100%.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
The success of urban value shows us this bigger trend.
Okay.
The lines are blurring between retail,
Right.
hospitality,
Mm-hmm.
and community building.
It's all connected.
It's not enough to just sell something anymore.
No.
Businesses need to create a space
Yeah.
that fosters a feeling of connection,
Right.
convenience, and belonging.
Makes sense.
And as consumers, we have the power to shape the marketplace with our choices.
We really do.
So let's support those businesses that are thinking outside the box
Yeah.
and meeting our needs in new and innovative ways.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of urban value
It's been fun.
and what the future of convenience might look like.
Yeah. Who knows what's next?
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions,
Yeah.
and never stop learning.